Welcome to Positive Read-Ins. Where have all the literary men gone to? This is what I'll be looking at, but before I do, just remind everyone that you can support this channel and you can discover new literature by getting your copy of the ultra-masculine classic Commutin. You can link to it in the description. You can also link to the Gymnasia Press website where you can get the short story collection Comorbidities and the novel Non-Local. Are you having trouble being an adult? Commuting could help. Get this generation's Rambo. Check it out in the description. Thank you. So we are now living post IWD, International Women's Day or International Women's Week, depending on where you were and how people celebrated. I know I spent a week hearing a lot about how we need to support women. Women aren't writing enough. We need to celebrate female writers. We need to encourage more women to write. However, this reminded me of an article that came out in the New York Times about three months ago called "The Disappearance of Literary Men Should Worry Everyone." Really, what this article says right in the first paragraph is that this movement to celebrate women is really about 2 decades too late. We don't have a problem with not enough women writing books. In fact, we have the opposite problem with men no longer writing books. So as the article says, in 2004, the New York Times bestseller list, which the writer David Morse puts up as some indication of literature, of great literature. I'm sure we can have plenty to disagree with there, but let's just push that aside. But this list was 50-50, and 20 years later, it is now less than 25% male and 75% female. A bigger problem, or what should be a problem, it should worry us, is that only about 20% of book sales are men buying them. So over 80% women are the ones buying the books. And this also extends into the MFA. So this writer is a teacher at an MFA program, and he says now regularly about 60% of the writers, the applicants are female. Some cohorts are all women. So there is, for some reason, a lack of interest in literature coming from the men. And why is this a problem? Well, it's a problem because, as this writer mentions, reading fiction will encourage things like what he calls emotional IQ. I think that's really just a metaphor for being sensitive to other people's feelings, being empathetic. And it has been shown that reading literature will improve empathy. This is a topic that a lot of people don't want to talk about, the fact that men aren't reading. Also in this article, he talks about how in 2022, the novelist Joyce Carol Oates actually came out, she tweeted saying that her friends who are literary agents, she says here, cannot even get editors to read first novels by young white male writers, no matter how good. So she seems to be implying that there's a lack of interest in male writers. There's a lack of interest in them. They themselves have a lack of interest, and they're not producing works of literature. David Morris asks a great question in here. He says, what will become of literature and indeed society if men are no longer involved in reading and writing? So he's not saying, hey, I want men to come back to the being on top of the literary world, but he's saying what's going to happen if we don't have men reading and writing. And he also goes on to say the fortunes of men and women are intertwined. And that's very much correct, right? If we have non-readers out there for the males, those are going to be partners for the females. So we can't live in separate worlds. So something's going on, and we need to try to improve this. What is it that's happening? When I think about this, one thing that I recall is that when I was a high school student, I got interested in reading literature and writing really coming from hardcore music and punk music. At the time, I think literature was, besides the kind of maybe the general dorkiness that surrounds reading, literature was really countercultural. There was something dangerous about it. It was exciting. It was a bit is a bit of a protest, a way to be subversive, to challenge society in interesting ways. That seems to have completely disappeared along with the male literary writers. You look at these conferences. Well, one, they're having conferences now for fiction writers. Everyone has a lanyard on. They look like, it's like a corporate gig. Everything's so tame. It's a tame world. No one wants to offend anyone. The books tend to be of that same type of tame variety, exploring their trauma. It's not the same world. It's not that exciting world. It's not the dangerous world of writing anymore. And I think this is one of the things that is drawn men away from it. I don't know how to fix that besides to try to encourage reading and trying to encourage men to write, or all people to write. But maybe it is time to put away International Women's Day and just try to maybe what we should be doing is celebrating general or genuine works of culture and art, and not these, just the popular. Maybe another way to say this is, if you're an adult and your favorite book is Harry Potter, you're not really a serious person, and you're not part of this conversation about art and culture. And that's the kind of direction I think we need to move in. And when we do, I think we'll find that we'll have better books being written by both males and females. Thanks for listening.